G'day team, welcome to the episode. Today we're going to be covering the Uber notes. My notes in the Uber right over here, 10 lessons getting to $10 million in front-end sales revenue in 2023. Hope there's some gold in here for you. Check it out.
Welcome.
Hi Shani.
Welcome. My favourite person.
Thanks for having me.
So today's episode, it's going to be short and sharp. It's going to be value
Punchy,
packed
in and out.
Good stuff. So I guess today, guys, we've got a lot of listeners who are business owners and some business owners who are at very different stages of their journey.
And sales leaders.
And sales leaders, yes, who, again, are at different stages of their journey. So one of my favourite quotes, Mr. Cochrane, is what got you here won't get you there. And today we're going to dive into what got the team that you were working in up to 10 mil in rev for the year, which is a big number to some. In comparison to some companies, it's not a big number, but in terms of the business that you were working in at the time and the type of offer that they have, like that is a big, solid number and a massive amount of growth year on year. So you learnt a lot of lessons along that journey, and today we're going to unpack your top 10.
10 lessons from 10 mil in 2023.
Nice. Let's hear it.
And so 10 mil in sales, that was the figure of revenue. 86% of that was paid in full. There's a 40% live call close. We had about 4.5% lead to sale. And the funnel that was being used for paid, VSL or ebook, there were multiple campaigns running. But after an opt-in, there was a discovery call with a setter, and then qualified leads were put through to a closer or an advisor as a strategy session, which then led to the sale. So in the Uber over here today, because I had to catch an Uber while you were getting your hair blow dried.
Oh, babe, why are you telling people that? Our baby was being looked after, just by the way.
It's great thinking time in the Uber. So in the Uber, I jotted down 10 lessons getting to 10 mil. So this is a non-exhaustive list. This is the Uber notes that I had. And so I'm probably going to get home today and think of like 10 more profound lessons. But we're going to go through 10. And so the first lesson to getting to 10 mil I was a leader on the sales team. So I was the VP. I'd been there for 6 years. I was the first closer and then built the sales team. And, we had insane growth. My first month there, I think was $70,000. And then, our best month in 2023 was around 1.2. So the first is offer. Mm-hmm. You can't scale if the offer sucks. So you've got to have a good offer. Getting to 10 mil. And the three keys, promise. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a great promise that people want.
Yep.
So the outcome that that you're delivering has to be attractive to the marketplace. So it has to be a sexy promise. The process that you have is the next part. So process is second. And the process you have to getting the outcome has to make sense to the person sitting on the other end of the line. That has to make sense. And it has to work, because the third is there needs to be proof to back it up. And so promise, process, proof. And
talk to us a little bit more about proof, like what?
There needs to be winning. People need to win. It has to get results.
So we're talking like case studies, testimonials.
Case studies, reviews, testimonials. It has to work for two reasons. Number one is because you get the proof. You get to advertise the proof. And so as over the 6-year period, the more proof we got, the more evidence of success. It just was like the flywheel. The more proof we got, the easier it was for people to sort of start to see people winning. People were less skeptical. They started to inquire more. And that's number one. And
the offer you were on had some big wins.
Massive
too.
proof.
Yeah.
And then the other reason why proof's important is because it it instills the confidence and certainty into the sales team. And so a sales team who have high belief in what they're doing, and they can sleep at night because they know what they're selling actually works, is really, really key.
Yep. We've heard
So
that
the
a lot
certainty in the offer.
on the podcast.
And then the other sort of little caveat to that is you got to have a really strong visionary founder as well. So that just with the offer, promise, price, proof, visionary founder who wants to change a lot, who's got a aggressive goal, which absolutely
The offer definitely
has. The second is great players make a good coach.
Yep. Okay.
This is a Lee Matthews quote. So Lee Matthews is an AFL football coach who led one of the greatest teams of all time, the Brisbane Lions, back in the early 2000s, and they had a lot of success. And yeah, he's regarded as one of the greatest coaches ever in AFL. And he said, what makes a good coach is great players, or what makes a great coach is great players. So the difference between a good salesperson and a really great salesperson is exponential, and it will transform the business. And I've had times where I've been scratching my head, wondering like, is something happening with the marketplace? Is something up with the marketing or the funnel? And everything, the results are just not there. And then you make one or two personnel changes, and it's just nothing else has shifted,
Drastically.
and it just totally transforms the business.
Yep. Do you know the number in terms of like what studies say?
The convert. No, tell me.
So I was looking at this.
I thought you were putting me on the spot
No,
there.
no,
I
no.
was
I was on the hot seat. No. I was just looking at a study the other day because I was seeing a heap of stuff about A players and hiring A players, and obviously that's what we try and do, what we do. And so I was like, hang on, like what's the actual quantifiable difference? Like someone somewhere has got to have done a study on it. And so McKinsey actually did a study recently on the difference between the productivity of an average team member and an A player. And it varies in terms of the complexity of the role, but at the upper end of more complex roles, which I would say sales is fairly complex, it's 800% difference.
Jesus. Well, that doesn't surprise me. That's significant. 800%.
800%.
8 times.
8 times different hiring someone average and hiring a high performer.
Yeah, well, a good team will make you look good as a VP or as a business owner. And that's important.
Yeah.
If that's not incentive to hire well, I don't know what is. And then the next is hiring. Number 3, hiring on sales ability first, product knowledge, industry knowledge second.
Yep.
So when deciding, and if you have a decision between two people who one has got big track record in sales, is a high performing closer, but maybe new to the industry, and then you got someone who's like product knowledge, deep product knowledge, but maybe needs a lot of training and a bit of sharpening on their selling, always go for the salesperson.
That's super interesting because we have so many clients who are so focused on the product knowledge and they think that's the thing. And I think what you're touching on here, like what we're talking about here are lessons from 7 figures to 8 figures, which if you want to do that, that's how you do it. Like there's certainly a time probably in business where you can afford to hire some salespeople who are good for culture, good product knowledge, but you can work on the sales side. Are you saying in this?
In this sense, yeah. In this sense, there's a Venn diagram I have, which is there's three circles. You've got product, industry, and selling skills. And so if you can find someone who's been an ex-client of yours, who's an industry expert, and they're a gun at sales, and we've got some clients who have those salespeople who've hired from their talent pool or their client pool, and they've also been a gun at selling. Great, but and there's one in particular where I hired a guy who I made a decision between two, and again, all of these lessons come from mistakes, and the guy presented really well, deep product knowledge. Was almost a walking billboard for what we were selling. So his personal story should have just sold. He literally should have just got on the call and just told his story. People would have given the credit card. But he kind of sucked at sales, but he was really, really good at the product knowledge and had experience with the business, but didn't work out. And, I sort of went against my own rule and got burnt for it. So definitely higher on sales ability. That just reinforced that. Number 4 is great versus good marketers. And so marketing is key. Most agencies suck. When you're scaling an offer with this type of offer where you've got funnels, you're looking at paid advertising, most companies are going to use an agency, especially at the start. But the problem is most agencies suck. And we were lucky where we had an agency where the media buyer and the copywriter, it was a small team, it was just a team of 2. It was their own business. They're elite at what they did in general, but they also didn't outsource and delegate their tasks to, a hired media buyer and, an in-house a copywriter or whatever. They did it. So they were the ones who were the business owners, plus they were doing the work, which meant that they worked 10 times as hard as an account manager in an agency. And the reason why most agencies suck, and I say that, is because at the moment, media buyers and marketing agencies are commodities. They're a dime a dozen. But then the good ones, the great media buyers and the great marketers, they're like hen's teeth. They're gold. So you've got commodities versus gold. A lot of media buyers, a lot of marketers, people who have decided to get into digital marketing. Not many are good. Very good at the sales process in getting you in, and then the delivery is really poor. And that can be also just in the strategy as well. So not even just the execution. It could be just giving you the wrong strategy. Giving you a lead ad sort of campaign or a sales page campaign that really doesn't warm people up. So they send you leads, but then the leads are bad. Or the leads are, you've got to get them in and then nurture them for 6 or 12 months before they're ready to buy. And then not many companies are set up to do that internally.
I don't want to labour on this too much, but because something I found really interesting about what you do or what you did in that role, obviously I just thought you were sales VP, but your marketing knowledge was really great, and I think that was really helpful to save time kind of messing about solving problems that didn't exist, because you knew what questions to ask and you knew what data to look at to get to the true source of any issues. Like say sales were low, you didn't just go, oh, well, it must be a sales problem, it's a sales team problem. You would go, okay, sales are low, well, let's work back and find the root cause of the issue, fix that problem. I think it saved a lot of time and heartache, because a lot of business owners and a lot of founders, like I know with me, I'm like, oh, something's wrong. Like, let's just do this and see if it fixes it. But you're really good at properly diagnosing what's wrong. And I think a lot of that comes from your knowledge of what to ask the marketing team. Is it too in depth, or what types of things are helpful there?
Well, I think you have to have good people. So you have to rely on them, you lean on them. And so if you're trying to manage a team that are incompetent or they've got the wrong ideas or they're just not executing, which we had one team on the YouTube side who were running YouTube ads, and I jump on the account management call, and I was dealing with an account manager. It was probably their 10th call for the day because they were in the States, and it was our morning, so it was their afternoon, and they were getting on. They probably just were looking at their notes, how to update the client. And the performance was shit. But then, I'd ask questions, technical questions around, what link is broken in the chain? Like, where's the break? Results are poor. What lead indicators off? And, I'll have to go and speak to the team. I'll have to get that answer for you. So that was frustrating. And I think a lot of companies have a similar experience with that. But for us, one of the things that really took the business to the next level was when we upgraded and we got a really good marketing team, and now that company has an internal marketing capability as well as external. So they manage sort of internal, plus they've got the agency contractors, and they've got good teams in place now.
So finding a good team that will just tell you the truth, give you the
tell you the truth, but also have good ideas and be competent.
Yeah, cool.
And So, and I guess a lot of business owners just don't have time to go become a marketing expert. So I think it's just really important that you have someone who you can actually trust. And probably the point of that is to say that, good versus great will just make or break the business.
Yep.
Fifth is the database. There are dollars in the database. And this wasn't something I found out. This is my lessons on the journey. I was just so interested in paid ads and paid leads and, new leads that have come through and they're warm. And then once, 30 days sort of went by, I just found that they were just crap. And so we would then prioritise just new leads coming in. And then we sort of started to build this massive database and nothing was really happening. So 3 to 4%, on average for these types of campaigns, VSL, webinar, lead magnet, ebook, whatever, 3 to 4% of buyers will actually buy within the first 30 days. Only 3 to 4%. And so the skill is obviously you need to get the 3 to 4%. You have to be good enough to close those guys who are actually in the buying window. But then the skill of a business and really where the upside lies is the 97 to 96% of buyers who don't buy within that time. And so as a business, like a really successful and really high-performing business should be focused on the 96 to 97% and nurturing those leads. So they go from other people's traffic, which is the Facebook, YouTube, people who are just scrolling through, they click the link, they give then the business the details, and you pay as a business, you pay whatever you pay for that lead. So you paid for that lead, but then it becomes your own lead. It becomes your database. You can market to it. And so what we found is over time, we started to send offers to the database. We started to do the jab, right hook approach. So we'd nurture the database.
Yep.
We got good at nurturing the database, and then we'd right hook. And you just have to keep right hooking. So value, but then the right hook. Yep. And the right hook could be on the back of a value offering. It could be a webinar that you run that's live, but there's a right hook at the end. Or it could just be a random Black Friday's here. Let's right hook the pipeline. Let's right hook the database.
But they haven't not heard from you since they clicked on the Facebook ad 5 years ago, and now they're getting a 50% off Black Friday email from some company.
Well, no, you you have to jab first.
Yeah, a few jabs.
So, I mean, there's definitely some merit in just right hooking if you haven't right hooked for a long time.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't jabbed, you might piss some people off. So the right hook's important. But the jab's also really important. So nurturing, and you're just shaking out the tree. Mm-hmm. Because most people through paid, they'll come through a process. They'll come through the sales funnel. They'll get onto, in our case, it was discovery call to strat session. If they didn't make the discovery call, if they didn't make the strat session, or if they went through, they didn't buy, what then? Are we just relying on the sales reps to then nurture those people who, setters nurture the discovery calls that didn't set, or the closers manage the strat sessions that didn't close? Are we just relying on the sales reps, or are they too busy, or is that irresponsible for the business just to sort of put that on the sales reps?
Yeah.
You're really missing an opportunity. Yeah.
Lose their pipeline or whatever.
Yeah. So it's a mixture of both. I think salespeople really need to manage pipeline really well, but the business would be doing itself a disservice by not working to have database campaigns and activating the database consistently, looking at different corners of the database that have just gone a bit cold or stale, how to reactivate that. The database, there are dollars in the database. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you want to get in touch with us, go to the Closers Dojo on Facebook. This is a Facebook group, free Facebook group for anyone looking to sell or build a sales team. We do sales trainings in there. We share a lot of resources. I'm sure you'll get a lot out of it. Okay, so number 6 is that not everyone's going to be a quarterback. Mm-hmm. So on an NFL team, there's a quarterback. There's one quarterback. And I think in sales, we always talk about A players. We always talk about the A+ players. And in closing sense, it's the closers who they're dominant personalities, and they convert and they close people. And they have a really high one-call close rate, and they are elite. And so we want those. We want those guys and girls. We really want those guys and girls. However, not everyone's going to be a quarterback, and that's not going to be the strength of a lot of people who are great at sales still. Like you said, I think in the last podcast, there's so many ways to skin a cat. And although it is my belief that if someone's closable on that one call, like we're probably going to have a better chance of selling them if we can close them on that first call. But that being said, I've now learnt that not everyone can be the quarterback, but there are strengths within each individual on the team. And as a great leader, you have to uncover and amplify the strengths of each individual. And you can't just, like, for me, I'm a high driver personality type. And so
shock, horror. I wouldn't have known.
So my style is a certain style. You know, I've got a style. So if I then bring that to my sales team and go, cool, everyone has to be everyone has to do this. This is the right way to sell. You got to close. You've got to convert on that first call. If you don't convert in the first call, they're not coming back. So you got to get it on that first call. It's buy or die. If I did that, then that's just trying to fit the square pegs into round holes. And so I learned that there is magic within everyone. And so my skill was not to just make everyone like me, but it was to highlight the strengths of each person and understand what they are and then lean on those strengths. And those strengths could be in extreme nurture, extreme nurture, extreme follow-up. It could be in extreme trust building. The top rep on that team would almost never close on the first, very rarely close on the first call. I was fascinated, and he had this system where he would send them the sort of T's and C's and sort of the sign up form, and then he would always wake up in the morning and he'd have all these signed agreements without closing on the sale.
Getting the payment over the phone.
Yeah, without getting the credit card or the payment right there on the phone. So, and that was an extreme level of trust that he built, and certainty in the product, and certainty in the outcomes, and belief in themselves that they can do it. And so he was able to just do that. And then there's other guys on the team who would just have extremely diligent strategies around follow up that would close out before at the end of each month. So, not everyone's a quarterback. Lead people, but micromanage the numbers.
Yeah, I love that one. It's one of my favourite things you ever taught me.
Yeah, so people don't want to be micromanaged, and people get the shits, and you don't want salespeople who've got the shits. So you can't micromanage people, and you got to lead them. They've got to feel inspired and energized, and if they're flat, you have to build them up, even if they're not converting, and but you do have to micromanage the numbers because the month slips away really quickly in sales. For us, we were in month sprints. We were 1 month sprints. So we had our targets for the month. We knew what we needed to hit. Each individual had their own quota to go towards that target. And micromanage the numbers is about micromanaging the lead indicators, not the lag.
Yep.
So understanding what are those things that what are the roots that drive the fruits?
Can you, if we have time, we want to keep it short, but can you tell the listeners a little bit more about your leading indicators versus lag? Because some people would have heard this before, but I think for some business owners, leaders, this might be the first time they're hearing that. What are leading indicators to you? Because lag indicators is kind of looking at the numbers at the end of the month and going, oh, wow, we had a bad month, and it's too late to fix it.
Yeah, so I start at the start of the funnel. So I start at leads and opt-ins. So with us, we had the funnel that I was explaining, VSL, ebook. We had a couple of others that were going on by the end. We had sort of some low ticket campaigns. But I'd start with opt-ins. So opt-ins and leads, number one. So and I knew that what I needed for the month to hit my target as a sales leader. So I needed X amount of opt-ins based upon a certain lead to sale, based upon a certain amount of discovery calls and strat sessions I needed. So I needed then that many opt-ins, and I needed them for a certain price. And so I had to really understand how we were tracking. So I would always have the number, like if it was the third of the month, I'd have the number of opt-ins, and then I'd have what we're on pace for.
Yep.
And with every lead indicator, I'd have, cool, so we've had this many opt-ins. If the third of the month is a certain percentage of the way through the month, then what is this number as a percentage of the total, what we're looking for, and do they match up?
Yep.
You know, so if we're 10% of the way through the month, but we only had 2% of the number, then maybe something's off. Or if we had 10% of the month gone, but we're at 15% towards the target, or 15% towards the target, then I knew that we're on track. So starting at leads, opt-ins, then I'd look at dials and talk time from setters. So how many dials, how much talk time. So I would always just measure that as a lead indicator. So sometimes when leads were good, we had less dials and more talk time because people were connecting and they were having conversations, and setters were on phone calls. So naturally they'd have less dials. And then when, you know, if we had a disparity of high dials to low talk time, then that would also indicate maybe there's something wrong with the campaigns. Discovery calls booked. Discovery calls showed. Discovery calls set.
I hope people have a pen and paper out or something, like writing this down, because I'm just listening to it going, this is so valuable.
Strat session set. Strat sessions showed, offers made, and sign-ups. And so offers made, it's a nothing indicator, but it's an indicator only. So as a salesperson, you never want to measure your success on your offer to close, because you can just manufacture that. This person's not qualified, 5 minutes in, I'm going to get them off the call.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I've gone 45 minutes with this person and I made them an offer. I didn't make them an offer. So it's sort of, so, you know, they're not qualified. No. If you need to find out quickly when someone's not qualified. If you're going the full distance with someone on a sales call, then they should be getting an offer. That's just a little interlude there around offer close. But I do measure offers. I do like to know how many were pitched. It's an indication. So that's ultimately that's it. That's it. So, but lead the people and then micromanage the numbers. So micromanage the numbers meaning like every day you need to know how you're on. Are you on pace? Each person individually. How on pace are they? What are they on pace for? If nothing changes, they just keep up the numbers that they're hitting. You know, where are they going to land on? What are they on pace to hit? What are the leads on pace to hit? Discovery calls. What's this person's? What are they on pace to hit?
It's their trajectory.
And then it's a hard one because, you know, often we'd have close out at the end of the month. So that's why sometimes the number of sales was not a great indicator in the first half of the month, because we were still building pipeline. We were going to close something out. But then I'd always know if I've got the volume there, if I've got the leads, I've got the discovery calls, the strat sessions booked, and they're on pace, but then the sales aren't on pace, then we're still good.
Yep. That's great. Yeah. It can alleviate a lot of stress and pressure for the team as well. Like if they're, you know, halfway through the month and they're sort of not on pace to hit their numbers in terms of sales, but they know they've got pipeline that's going to drop, but then they're getting pressure from down on them, then they can get into a state. And
if you don't know if you don't know your lead indicators as a manager, then all you're looking at is at lag, and then you're just harassing your sales team, going, "Hey, where are we at? What we're behind." But you know, it's like you're driving blind, but then you're giving people stress. And so what happens when you give salespeople stress? Often, you know, they need to get some stress, but if you give them too much stress, and you're just managing lag numbers, you're just managing the end result, then they're not going to perform either. They're going to lose confidence. Number 8, hire more than you need. Avoid crisis hires.
Oh, I like this one. That one.
So, yeah.
Did that come from experience?
Again, coming from experience. There was a time where I had a crack team, a really savage team, and elite. You know, but there was some issues with the team. There was a couple of guys in the team who maybe didn't gel, but individually they were all performing. So I made the decision to reshuffle and sort of get some of the guys out who weren't who were maybe killing the vibes a bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, killing the vibes, and it's almost like pruning your hedge,
Yeah.
pruning your rose bush.
Yeah.
So you got to prune it back so it then can grow and flourish. And if you just let it keep growing, versus if you prune it, it comes back stronger and better. Whereas if you just keep letting them grow, sometimes it doesn't grow as strong. So I think I saw it as pruning, and so I pruned in a bid to build a stronger and better team and take a short-term kind of hit. But then I lost 2 others
For different
reasons. One of them had, I think, just got sort of burnt out.
Yeah.
One of the guys who's a top performer, unbelievable culture man, and I think we had a month where we perhaps didn't spend enough on ads. And so we really need to hammer the pipeline. The guys didn't have it. The top of funnel was a little bit skinny, so we had to kind of pull something out of pull some rabbits out of the hats to actually hit the target, and it just burnt some of the guys out, and he was a casualty. And then there was another one who decided to actually go start a business, and so then I was really I was in a bit of a pickle. And then there's been many other times where, I've hired one person and they didn't work out, or they were shit. And so it does cost a little bit more when you hire 2 people or 3 people for the one role. Costs more because you're paying all these salaries, but the cost of actually having that seat not full is dramatically more than the cost of having a bit of an overflow, a bit of an overlap of staff. Because ultimately, when you hire one for one seat, if you hire for two for that seat or 3, over the next 3 to 6 months, it'll be one. There'll still be one there.
Well, hopefully not if we hire them, but
No, that's true.
There's natural turnover in a business, and you want it, as you say, you want like a healthy percentage of turnover in business, especially if you're a high growth business, because again, what got you here won't get you there. The culture's likely going to change a lot if you have that amount of growth, so you need to have turnover, but you don't want it to cost you.
Of course.
You don't want to fall short, and you don't want to be hiring out of
and you don't want to be stuck in a crisis where you've got just the bare minimum on the deck, bare minimum team on the park. You don't have a bench. It'd be like a sporting team that went out. They've got 18 on the field and they've got no one on the bench.
Someone gets concussed.
Yeah, I mean, you could have injuries. Like you could have injuries in the first quarter, and then who's going to be stepping in? You're just going to be 1, 2, 3 short, and that's so costly, so bloody costly. So there's that. Number 9 is call reviews, manage the quality. Mm-hmm. So always as a manager and a leader, I know for me there was spot fires every day, and there's always a reason to be on a Zoom or on a call or in your emails or in your Slack. My Slack would just be like chaotic.
The Slack noise.
Yeah, and a lot of it was just non-dollar revenue generating stuff. Yep. It was admin related, HR related, contracts related, whatever. Some other thing that was going on. So then doing call reviews and listening to the quality of your calls, I know for me, sometimes if I let that slip, definitely let it slip. There were times I definitely let it slip, suffered big time. So it's one of those tasks as a leader and a manager, a business owner, that it's not urgent, and so it's easy to put off. So it's important, not urgent, easy to delay, easy to put off, no immediate kind of consequence for not doing it, but over time, shit goes south and you don't know why and you can't put your finger on it. Then all of a sudden you do a call review and you go, oh my God.
Yep.
And then also on the flip side of that, when you start doing them and you do them regularly and you're doing it like it's maintenance, you just see such dramatic shifts in the performance of your team.
Yeah. It's valuable for the team as well. Like they want the feedback. If you're working with high performers, they want the feedback.
Here's the caveat. You actually have to be good at listening to calls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a skill. Yeah.
Because if you're bad at coaching, if you don't know what you're really listening for, Well, that's one. You don't know what you're diagnosing, so you might misdiagnose and then coach them on doing something that actually is not going to push the performance up. It's just going to confuse them.
And you change something that was actually working for them.
Totally.
And then they don't know what's happened because too much has changed.
Totally. And then the other thing is you have to be good at coaching. So because if you are good at diagnosing what's wrong, you're going to hear 100 things that you would want to change, that you might not have done or that you think needs to improve. You're going to hear it. You're going to be very critical. You're going to hear a lot. But if you give them 100 things to fix, or if you don't know what's of the 100 things, what's the number one thing or the number one or two things that if you fix those up, that's going to push the needle forward more than the other 99, 98, a lot more. That's the skill. So they're an absolute must, but they must be done right. Okay, we're at number 10.
Number 10. What is it? It's got to be good. It's the last one.
Honestly, I wish I had a thought about this at the when I was in the Uber and thought, man, I got to leave the best for number 10. But I was literally just getting through them. So the last is to create leaders.
Oh, well, that's great. That's Mr. Cochran. What a way to close it out.
So create leaders is the skill as well. So we want to create leaders. There's a couple of reasons. Selfishly, if you create leaders, then you can delegate some tasks. So you don't, as a leader, you don't have to do all of the things that are related to leadership. You don't have to do all the core reviews. You don't have to do a lot of the onboarding. You don't have to do the initial training. If you've got videos as well that need to be filmed for some process-based stuff, you can rely on some of your reps. And what I find is that A players really want and embrace a leadership role or leadership tasks, and you don't necessarily need to always pay them more or pay them for it. So often you should, but there are some things that within your team, like if you, like for me, I was overseeing sort of 12-ish staff, which is a lot for one person to work with. So then I built leadership under me. I had leads on each team, and they had certain tasks, and they got remunerated a little bit for performance, and so it really allows your leadership to then get injected through the rest of the team, and it makes it go a lot further. So focusing on creating leaders underneath you as a leader, I think is super key.
Yeah, it's a lot of what we focus on now with our business, because like very quickly, I guess when we first started, we were looking at like done for you sales and that type of thing. But one of the biggest misalignments and something that just felt really off, I think, for both of us around that was we're not really creating value within the business. Like there's lots of reasons why that whole done for you sales model is really not the way to go for a business owner. Like it's great for the done for you agencies who can take a clip and yeah, woohoo. But for us as business owners ourselves, and we've run businesses prior, we really wanted to focus on building that internal sales capability because it's an asset to the business. It is the heart of a business, the sales team, the sales function and the stability of that. But a big part of that is building that internal leadership, isn't it?
100%. Yeah. So if you can, I mean, the sales function of a business is the engine of a business and the lifeblood of a business. If that's outsourced to a different company, then what are you really growing? And if you want to sell your business, if you ever want to sell your business, what are you selling? No one's going to look at it. So it is hard to build a really good sales team, and it takes time. And I think that's why a lot of founders are just wanting to sort of do the hands-off approach. And I get it. I totally get that. So it's like learning any new skill. It's going to take time. And so I think that sort of time and that focus of building a new thing or learning something new, like building a sales team when you've been really good at doing the thing of your business, it can be quite daunting. So the idea of just like palming it to a company is attractive, but I really believe when you take it on, like anything, you take it on, it's worthwhile. The results that you're going to get, it's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to become a great sales leader. You're not going to build ultimately, you're not going to build like the best sales organization at the start. You're going to have a lot of hard lessons, and you're going to be probably terrible at the start. Like I was terrible when I started playing golf, and also terrible managing and leading salespeople at the start. But over time, I think as a business owner, that's what you need to master that. It's just so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like a massive part is building out those leaders within the team, recognizing and building them up within the team.
Absolutely. There it is. Yeah. 10 lessons from 10 million, the Uber notes.
The Uber notes. Chris's Uber notes. I think we do this as a regular episode. Chris's Uber notes.
I like it.
Thank you, Kris.
Awesome.